Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to paint this Plaguebringer from Spellcrow. Yes, I said it in the title. Glazing Sucks. This video will show you how I use glazing and when I use glazing. A ton of thanks to Spellcrow for sponsoring this model and a ton of other models, because I'll be writing for their Purple Warlock magazine and it will have a printed copy soon. I really like the aesthetics of Spellcrow miniatures. If you check them out, they're all, I think, hand sculpted, and the aesthetics is a bit different. It's so detailed, and the crevices, the details are so deep because again it's hand sculpted. Basically it's different. It's really nice. The minis practically paint themselves. They also sent me some awesome bits which are great for basing, like mushroom skulls, a couple of rocks that I use in the basing. So I just glued them all together and voila! I have a nice, really cool base for the Plaguebringer. After filling the gaps of the basing with Vallejo texture paint, I then primed the model with Vallejo black primer. I have a ton of skin tones, so let's paint it differently this time. Decided to use these colors. Quick shout out to Redgrass for this awesome wet palette. First we paint with basic layering. However, the deep forest skin and this forest skin is like it jumps so far from each other, the color tone. So we're going to mix a lot with this skin tone. I have a ton of videos already explaining how I do layering, which is basically just mixing the previous color with the current color, which makes me come up with different tonal values to have very nice transitions within the miniature. So basically you do the work already in the wet palette so that when you apply it on the miniature, you have nice transitions already. You don't have to blend while painting on the miniature. So while you watch the build-up of the layering of this model, let's talk glazing because we might run out of time because this is just a 12-minute video. Yes, I said it, glazing sucks, but I'm sorry if you really love glazing, but there are times when I find it really boring. Also, when I was trying to learn intensively how to paint miniatures the past 6 months, I struggled a lot glazing with the paints thinned with water. Expert painters and more experienced painters are really good at pushing and pulling pigments suspended in water. But for me, when I was trying to learn, and even now, I find it difficult, which is weird because I was a watercolor artist since I was 12 years old, and that's 30 years ago. So anyways, it was like challenging for me to push and pull the pigments suspended in water because they're like on top of the water and you're trying to push them where you want them to be. And if you apply or add water to the paints, they tend to be too runny. I'm pretty sure you all have experienced this. The runny paint, which means paint with a lot of water, really a lot of water. It runs a lot and then settles around the crevices and details of the model. So you're not really glazing or slash filtering the model, but basically you're just applying washes and controlling these paints that are thinned so much with water is kind of difficult for me even now. So I just want to share how I struggled and found a solution in terms of not doing this, not thinning paints too much, and glazing in a more effective, glazing in a more effective way. Oh, before we proceed, I'm not happy with my skin tone with this one. It's supposedly a forest skin tone and I found it too pale. We'll solve this later and I'll show you in the latter part of the video. So to be clear, I said glazing sucks if you thinned your paints with water. Basically, using water to create a glazing consistency with paints will produce a very runny paint, and it will tend to settle in crevices and details. Also, because you added water, the tendency of producing watermarks is very high because you added water. Unlike if you added mediums, you'll have medium marks. Like I said, expert painters and more experienced painters are really good at controlling pigment suspended in water. But for mortal people like us, I mean, ordinary painters like us or like intermediate painters, it's kind of tricky and difficult. So I'll show you how I worked around it by using the glaze medium. You could also use matte medium or any medium for that matter. Also, if you're like first time watching my video, you'll notice that I just paint with basic layering and mix a lot of paints. Not a lot of paint, use a lot of colors. Sometimes a lot of paint, sometimes I mix a lot of colors, or I mix a lot of paints to produce so many colors. So basically, if you mix a lot, you'll produce nice transitions, as you could see with the pimples here. It's gross, but you'll produce really nice transitions without glazing throughout while painting the model. I painted this model around 4 hours, but if I did glazing while I was painting or while I was doing layering, it will take me more hours. Especially, you'll have to use a lot of hair dryer because glazing dries so slow. You have to speed it up with hair dryer. And Spellcrow miniatures are resin, so be careful with using the hair dryer too much because you might melt all those like thin details. Now we're glazing. So basically I mix around 1 part glazing medium or glaze medium and 1 part paint. You could also use matte medium and 1 part paint. So basically the difference between matte medium and other mediums and the glaze medium is more fluid, it's more liquid, so it's smoother or it's more runny in a way, but that's the only difference. The matte medium and other standard mediums are sort of like they have the same consistency as paint, so in actuality it's easier to use, but I can't find my matte medium. You could also mix like around 2 parts paint and 1 part medium only, because I kind of got bored when I mixed 1:1 here. But as you could see, the transitions are really nice. It's soft and very smooth. Also, if you've noticed, while we were painting the forest skin, I was painting the tips of the tentacles and the horns lighter so that the glaze medium will like effectively cover it later here, as you can see here. Also, darker colors are better with mediums. We won't go sciencey with it, but basically just know that darker colors are great with mediums. So as you can see, the painting, or at least my painting method here, is very simple. We just did layering with the forest skin, and now we're painting the details and doing highlights and stuff. And then we introduce new color, which is the magenta plus medium, glaze medium, on the tips of the tentacles and the horns. So we basically, even during the layering, we're not mixing the magenta to make the painting of the model complicated. So it was really simple, just forest skin and then glaze up or apply glaze medium with the magenta. Now we're using flow colors. Before, I thought flow colors are only good for lightsabers and stuff, because again, I'm more of a mecha and gunpla painter. But now I realize that they're great for adding colors and hues to the model. And as I've said earlier, I'm not happy with the skin tone. So now you could see I'm adding a bit of flow green to give the shadow areas and the other parts of the skin more pop, and gave it a nicer, more colorful overall look. After painting the base with just dry brushing and a bit of pigments and all that stuff, also adding some Vallejo tufts to liven up the base, we're basically done. So I kinda simplified the use of the glaze medium here. We just use it to introduce new color to this kinda pale looking forest skin. Also, we use the flow colors as a glazing paint because flow colors are really thin, so you're practically glazing it. You're not really painting it over the model, so because they're so thin. So I hope you find this video useful and you find the painting process very easy to follow. That's it, we're done. I hope you liked the video. Do like, comment, subscribe, and consider joining the channel so that you'll be part of our Discord community. Saludos! Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my channel. I'm an affiliate painter for Red Grass Games and also the head mecha and sci-fi painter for Vallejo Colors. I write painting articles for Fine Scale Modular Magazine. I also write articles for Fantasy Figures International Magazine. Lastly, if you're into Gunpla, do use my discount code for usagundamstore.com. Links down below.